So welcome to chapter 7 of my first steps in Baroque improvisation. Today we're going to talk about realizing your first partimento. Now, what is a partimento? Well, a partimento is usually a bass line, although as it gets more advanced, not always. But for our purposes, it's a bass line that we use as a basis to compose or improvise out our own pieces, right? So sometimes they come with figures, which gives us an idea of what harmonies we're meant to use, and other ones come without figures, so you're just meant to use your knowledge and your experience and your taste to supply the harmonies. So figures are a little bit like training wheels if you're riding a bike, and today we will be using the figures, you'll be glad to know. And although the original is in bass clef, I'm also going to put it into guitar treble clef. This material is from the Mattei, or Stanislao Mattei, versets collection, which we also used in the previous video as well to talk about harmonizations of the scale using figures. So if you haven't checked out that video and the other ones in the series, please do, because they will definitely help with this one. So obviously what complicates working on a bass line like this is the fact that we have a bass line that jumps around, as opposed to just moves up and down stepwise all the time in a nice orderly fashion like a scale. So it helps to look at this thing and identify some features. So this is the whole bass line. I'm going to play it a little bit faster than we're going to realize it, because we probably need to do it quite slowly, but it basically goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. By the way, all of this material and the material for the past few videos will be available in a PDF that you can download for a small charge, which I'll attach a link to in the description. We have some scalar movement in that, we have some leaps, and it helps to identify a little bit about the structure of this, I think, to work on it, even though we are supplied the figures. And if you're good with figures, you'll be able to look at that and go, oh yeah, that's what that is, that's what this is. But I'm going to talk about the structure anyway. So it's a verset, as the title of the collection suggests, which is a short piece, doesn't modulate, usually played on organ in, for instance, a church service, and it's a good basic model for improvisation. Now, a lot of partimenti out there in the wider world, such as those by Fenaroli, are a lot longer and they include modulations, but this is a great place to start. So this is where I'm starting. And what I will do is, in the PDF, I will also supply some other partimenti rendered perhaps a little bit more accessible to guitarists by adding in some figuring that Mattei sort of leaves out because he expects people just to be able to wing it a little bit, and also by putting them into treble clef. I might do some chord symbols, but I really want people to get away from the chord symbols a bit and start to think more contrapuntally, and I think the figures are great for that. So anyway, this piece is sort of divided into 3 sections. We've got a beginning, which I think is this bit. That feels like a thematic statement to me. Ends with the 2-5-1. Jazzers will be happy to know. And then we have this. That's a scale, really, right? Well, I mean, it is a scale, just descending from C to C. And then at the end we have, which is a cadence, right? Now, it's a slightly embellished cadence. Let's talk about the cadence first, actually. Usually, in our simplest examples, we have just G for a bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, C for a bar, perfect cadence, right? Now, we have a melody that we often encounter, which is called the cadenza doppia, or double cadence, and this happens when you get the, in this case it's B, so the last 7th degree of the scale, as we'd call it today. We get this. Back to the 1, and then again the 1, 7, and then the bass moves up to C, and the whole thing resolves to an octave, right? That's the cantizans part there, or sopran as I called it in the first video. Now we're just embellishing that slightly by moving the bass down by a half step. So we'll go. Okay. So now we understand the cadence. Let's actually start just fleshing out the rest of this thing. So we're going to use 2 voices, and I'm going to run it into the cadence. So everything's going to be thirds apart from the cadence, because none of the figures contradict a third, although they suggest other intervals as well. So let's just start with this. So 3rd, 10th, 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 and then thirds. 10th, 10th, and then the cadence goes like this. Okay, I mean that's fine, right? You know. So if we want to use the other intervals, we can. So if you notice here, the 7/6 goes on E. That's D to C. This has got to be kind of prepared in the previous chord. So this suggests that we have the D, which is the fifth of the G there. So we could do third to fifth. We could even put the third in the middle there. But then let's do third. Now I think sixth is strongly suggested by the fact that we have a seventh there, which is again is dissonant, so we do need to prepare it. Third, and then let's go to octave right there. So it's like a cadence. In this case, a cadenza composta, which means C, B, C, as opposed to a double cadence, right? Or a long cadence, as I called it in the first video. So let's try that. Yeah, nice. And we go, we could do tenths. Okay, and if we use the figures that they've provided, this should actually be, it doesn't say on that one. We can do an octave. We can do fifths there, which is what it suggests, a fifth. That's quite nice, isn't it? And then it's a perfectly good first step towards the realization. Realization being the fleshing out process of this bass line into music. So let's try that. And then right, now we'll realize this into three voices. So we can use, I think, pretty much all the chords until we get to the cadence. We can use a third in addition to whatever else they've got specified. And for the cadence, we can go like this. Yeah, so that's going from the figures really. And this one it's 5/3, and we got the 6/5. That beautiful dissonance there, the whole step dissonance. And then 5/3, which is a sus chord, and we've got that whole step dissonance preserved into that. Just the bass moves up by a half step into third C. So it's really nice little resolution there. So let's try that. So we're going. Sorry. And then for these fast moving bits, you could just cheat it and do two voices. So. I like the 7/6 there, even though it's not specified. And then the C with the octave, because we're going resolving that B to a C, right? So you've got to think about stuff like that. Or it certainly will help your realization sound more idiomatic. Right, so let's try that in time. Too bad. Okay, and we could break that up into arpeggios very simply like this. So Okay, very, very straightforward realization, but quite effective, I think. Let's try something more melodic. And then, I don't know. I'm not very good at that bit. Yeah, I'm not sure what to do about that eighth note bit. You're playing that wrong, right? Yeah, that's just trying to get a little bit more of an aria sort of effect. I like that note. That's it. And then. That's quite cool. I like that. Now, one thing I kind of like to do as well when doing these melodies, I like to jump around a bit. So rather than, this is a little bit, this is fine. It's kind of like, that's what we have. It's quite nice if you jump registers. So, we could use a B natural there, so a B flat. That seems very expressive to me. I'll do that again, sorry, correctly. Going to the third on top there, right? Instead of to the octave. We don't need to always go to the octave on every cadence. Anyway, I hope that's given you some ideas for your first Partimento realizations. As I say in the PDF, I'm going to include some other ones by Mattei, and then once you get your figured bass reading chops together, you can have a go at the whole book, which is available on online for free. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.